Billionaire and really well-known investor Carl Icahn has 62% of his portfolio in just one stock. But this is not just any stock. This is a stock that Icahn himself controls. So today I want to dig through what's in the portfolio according to the 13F filings that are filed with the SEC. These are filings that investment managers need to file with the SEC to just tell them what they own each quarter. The numbers I'm going to go through are as of the end of 2023, because these reports are due 45 days after the quarter ends. So they will likely change in about another month. But one thing that probably isn't going to change is Icahn having a huge concentration in Icahn Enterprises. So I'm going to dig through all this today. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video's sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. First of all, let's just look at the concentration of this $10 billion portfolio, because I think this is really striking. IEP is the ticker that Icahn owns. 62% of his portfolio is in that single stock. Like I said, he does control that company. I'll get to that in just a second. The second biggest holding, CVR Energy, about a $2 billion position in that company. And then we actually have a lot of energy companies: Southwest Gas Holdings, Occidental Petroleum, First Energy, American Electric Power, Sandridge Energy, a lot of energy in the portfolio. But I want to focus in on IEP specifically, because if you aren't familiar with this company, this is actually a way that you can invest with Icahn through his own holding company. This is a presentation that Icahn Enterprises LP gave to investors in March. So a lot of recent data, and they go over some of the highlights here at the top. Icahn has primarily executed transactions through IEP in recent years. He had a long history of being a hedge fund manager, stopped investing outside capital in, I believe it was 2011. But right now he owns 86% of IEP's outstanding depository shares. So pretty big stake in this. And here's a look just broadly at what the company owns: a lot of investment assets, energy assets, automotive, some real estate, and then there's some holding company assets as well. Net loss for the 12 months ended December 31st, 2023 was $684 million, and adjusted EBITDA was $361 million. This is the somewhat convoluted corporate structure. Icahn Enterprises is the general partner. They own 1% of the publicly listed company, and then the publicly listed company owns 99% of Icahn Holdings LP. The general partner owns the other 1%. And then that company owns this food packaging segment, 100% of the investment segment, Icahn Automotive Group, real estate holdings, 66% of CVR Energy, and in the pharma segment, we have Vivus LLC. This is a bit of the timeline. There's a lot of different transactions that they made over the years with CVR Energy, something they've been very involved in for over a decade now. Bought Pep Boys in 2016. So long history of transactions. These are highlighting specifically the energy and industrial space. What's interesting about Icahn Enterprises is, as well as Icahn is known for being a deal maker, these are actually pretty long-term investments, a lot of these. And you can see the net income. This is for fiscal years, the last 3 years. Pretty bad year in 2021. Recovered a bit last year. Energy segment alone did $508 million in net income. But then the investment segment is actually really where the company has struggled. So exactly what Icahn has been known for is one of the things that had struggled in Icahn Enterprises over at least the last few years. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. So Icahn Enterprises accounts for a huge percentage of Icahn's portfolio, and he obviously controls that business. Now, over the years, they've done a bunch of transactions within Icahn Enterprises. If you have followed some of the acquisitions and sales of assets like the Stratosphere in Las Vegas or Fontainebleau in Las Vegas, those were at least partially done through Icahn Enterprises. So it's like an investment arm that Icahn gets to use to buy distressed assets and potentially sell them in the future. So he's done very well on some of those investments, but it also has this holding company component. So it's a little bit like a Berkshire Hathaway structure, but Icahn owns 86% of the shares outstanding. So if you do want to have exposure to exactly what Icahn is investing in, this is a publicly traded company that you can buy as well. But it's not the only thing that he owns. If we go back to the other pieces in the portfolio, CVR Energy, Southwest Gas Holdings, Occidental Petroleum, that's another one that Warren Buffett has been buying a really large position in. So between the two of them, they own a huge percentage of Occidental Petroleum. First Energy and American Electric Power Company, again, a couple of energy companies. So Icahn is very overweight on energy, not only within the existing Icahn Energy Enterprises portfolio, but also outside of that portfolio as well. I think that's really interesting given the fact that Icahn has such long-term holdings and has been such a deal maker in that space. Clearly sees a lot of value in energy stocks, maybe partly because they're so consistent. They're going to be generating revenue for years in the future, but it's also familiar. This is an area where Icahn has been analyzing for decades, and he has not typically been somebody who gets into something like technology stocks. And that's where a lot of the money has been made over the last decade or two on the stock market, is with a lot of these big tech companies. But you don't see Icahn going into this. One of the interesting stories with Apple, and I'll pull this up, is Icahn had a huge position in Apple in 2014 and 2015. He owned 53 million shares of Apple, got up to be about 22% of his portfolio. But then he sold it off. And the reason is he convinced Tim Cook to start buying back shares and start a dividend and start returning a lot of the cash flow that was being generated by Apple to shareholders. You might remember back in Steve Jobs' days, he was really against returning money to shareholders through buybacks or dividends because he thought that money should be reinvested in the company, and holding a huge cash balance was actually a strength for Apple. And that was partially because the company was near death a couple of times throughout its history. So that was one of the things that really started turning around Apple from an investment perspective, because the stock was very cheap at that point and there was a pop in the stock. But since the beginning of 2015, and this chart shows it right here, Apple's stock is up 512%. So if Icahn just would have held onto that stock and done absolutely nothing, he would have made a 512% profit on that position. That's not even including the profit that he made in 2014. So I think this is one of those things where different investors invest different ways. Icahn is looking to make a deal, take an activist position or a large position in a company and make some changes. That's oftentimes what happens with a lot of these transactions. If you go to the casinos that I talked about in Las Vegas, they were not casinos that he was going to own and operate over the course of decades. He was there to buy something at a low valuation, turn it around, and then sell it to somebody else or flip it out to public markets. That's exactly what happened with those transactions. That's what happened with Apple. And that's really what he had. That's what he's done over the course of decades, was known as a corporate raider in the 1980s. So just a different style of investing, but something definitely worth keeping an eye on if you're an investor is what Icahn owns, and especially that IEP portfolio, very heavy weighted in energy and industrials. So that is worth keeping an eye on. But I think an interesting look at a very well-known investor and where he has his money today and how you could actually get some exposure to it. What do you think about Icahn's portfolio? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.